Welcome to the Introduction to StoryO 2 video tutorial. In this video, you're going to get a quick overview of StoryO 2. When you first launch StoryO 2, you will see a list of 4 sample projects. Click on the Time Travel project. You will be taken to the timeline. Here, you can see your sequences for this project. Sequences are created here and can be rearranged on the timeline. Each sequence is attached to a segment, shown here. Each sequence can also have index cards attached to it. Just click on the index card button on the sequence card. Once in the index card view, you can edit cards, add more cards, delete cards, and rearrange the order of the cards. You can also add characters to each card. When finished, you can export your project to text, print a variety of reports, and even export your cards to Final Draft to complete a screenplay. So let's recreate the time travel project. The first thing I'm going to do is click on the Projects button. I'm going to create a new StoryO project by clicking on the Create New button. This button also allows you to load an existing StoryO project. We are going to create a new project, so I'm going to select the second button called Create New StoryO File. Let's call it Time Travel Tutorial so we don't get confused with the time travel project already loaded into StoryO. And then click OK. You will then be asked to select a paradigm for your project. I'm going to skip this for now, as this part of StoryO, the outline module, is not discussed in this introduction. But you can see the lesson on the outline module by going to our training page on our website and watching Lesson 2, which explains the outline module. Now that the project is created, click on it to go to the Timeline module. You will see a blank screen. Let's create our first segment. To do this, click on the New Segment button. I'm going to enter current year. You can, if you want, enter how this segment is measured, by days or weeks, but this is not required. Let's select a color for this segment. You can, of course, select any color you want. In the original time travel project, it was a greenish color, so I'm going to select that, and then click OK. Now, you don't see segments on the timeline. You see sequences based on that segment. So now, StoryO is asking you if you want to create a sequence, which is one of the colored boxes on the timeline, based on the newly created segment. Click Yes. Let's name the sequence. In the original time travel project, as you can see here, the first sequence is called Bill at School. So let's enter that here in the sequence field. As you can see, the segment that this is attached to is current year. You are also asked to enter a quick description for the sequence. Again, going back to the time travel project, the description here says Bill gets into trouble. So I'm going to enter that here. Also, the sequence has a date, so I'm going to enter that date here in the specific date field. Once finished, click OK. We've just created our first sequence. If you click on the Filter Timeline by Segment button, you can see the segment, current year. Since both are the same color, it's easy to see that they are related. Next, let's create another sequence and put it on the timeline. This time, select the New Sequence button right here. Each of the buttons have a tooltip, so you can see the function of that button. When you click the New Sequence button, you will go back to the New Sequence screen. There are 4 sequences that are attached to this segment in the time travel project, so I'm going to quickly create them all now. The first one is called Next Shoot Day, and the description I'm going to enter is Bill meets Carrie. The date is 4/3/2009. And now, when we return to the timeline, you can see that a new sequence was created with the same greenish color, indicating that it is attached to the segment current year. As you can see, now we're getting somewhere. We're building a series of sequences on the timeline. Okay, let's continue with the next sequence. The third one is called Carrie's Boyfriend. Let's attach it to the segment current year, and then enter the description Big Mean Buddy. Now notice that I'm entering short descriptions here because the sequence card only allows for a limited description. If you want to enter a longer description for this sequence, enter it here in the longer description field. Even though this will not print on the sequence card, it will print out on other reports. Okay, let's enter a date for this sequence. And according to the original time travel project, the date is 4/3/2009. And then click OK. So far, so good. We've got 2 more. Click on the New Sequence button again. This one is called The Big Game. The description is Bill makes the move on Carrie. And the date is 4/5/2009. Don't forget to select the segment current year and then click OK. And quickly, one more. Trouble with Parents. Current year, getting suspicious. And 4/6/2009. Okay, now you can always go back to a sequence and modify information. So let's say that we want to change the date of Trouble with Parents to 4/7. Click on the Note button on the sequence. Make any modifications you want to make, and then click Done. Let's go back to the original time travel project. As you can see, there are more sequences here and more segments. So let's create the next one. According to this, the segment is called Civil War. You can see that it is measured in years, and the color is yellow. And here is the one sequence attached to the Civil War segment. Okay, so going back to our project, to create a new segment, click on the New Segment button. Call it Civil War, and select Years for Measure In, and then enter 1861 in the start year. For the color, select Yellow, and then click OK. As with the creation of the first segment, you are asked if you want to create a sequence for this segment on the timeline. Click Yes. Let's title the sequence Bill Meets Abe Lincoln. Now, notice here that the segment is already entered for us. But if we click on this field, you will now see 2 segments to choose from. Leave it Civil War. Then enter the description, helps sign the Emancipation Proclamation and click OK. As you can see, we are building our timeline for this project. I'm going to create one more segment so you can get the hang of it, and then we'll move on to creating index cards for our sequences. Okay, let's create a new segment and call it Jurassic Period. Since we don't need a specific date for this segment, in fact, we don't even need a specific year, I'm going to select Era for the measure field and enter 65 million years ago, just like the sample shows here. The color in the original project is a pinkish orange color, so I'm going to select something close to that and then click OK. We do need a sequence here, so yes. Enter a title for this sequence, Bill Meets T-Rex. The quick description is Bill goes back in time to see dinosaurs. Then click OK. Now that you get the hang of it, I'm going to create the rest of the segments and sequences outside of this tutorial. But I'm going to use the same exact methodology, creating a segment first by clicking on this button, and then creating either one or two sequences and attaching them to the segment. The color coding is really important here, as it helps you see which sequence is attached to which segment. Okay, once complete, I have my timeline, but it is not in the order that I want it to be. You can rearrange the sequences by simply dragging them around on the screen. If you have a lot of sequences and you want to see more on the screen, you can resize the sequence boxes by selecting the slide size here, or by selecting the size button. If you have a lot of sequences, as they are here in the Civil War project, you can scroll down the page. Going back to the original time travel project, if you click on the index card button, another screen will appear showing you 3 index cards that are attached to that sequence: Mr. Foot, Alex, and After School. Let's create those on our project. Select the index card button on the Bill at School sequence. Click OK to create your first index card. The first one was called Mr. Foot. I'm going to copy and paste the text here for the card, and then close the window. And now I'm going to create the second index card by clicking on the Add New Card button. This one is called Alex. Paste some text here. And the last one is called After School. And paste some text here. Okay, now the next thing I want you to notice is the color of the index cards. By default, they match the sequence and the segment color. But if you want, you can change the color of any index card, which I will do right now. And also, I will change the third one. Now, here's a neat trick. Let's say you decide later that you want all the index cards to match the segment color. From the Index Cards pull-down menu, select Match Index Card Color to Segment Color, and they all revert back to the default color of that segment. Just like the sequence boxes on the timeline, you can rearrange the order of the index cards by dragging them around the screen. If you want to move a card to another sequence, select Edit on that card, and then select the Move this card to another sequence button. Let's move Alex to the Bill meets Abe Lincoln sequence.
Close the Edit Card window. Notice that the Alex index card is no longer seen in the Bill at School index cards. Go to the Bill Meets Abe Lincoln sequence and take a look at the attached index cards. And here is the Alex index card. If you want to match the color to the segment, select that option from the index card's pull-down menu. Next, let's create some characters. If you go to the original time travel project and select the Characters button, you will be taken to the Characters module. Here on the left, you will see a list of characters. You can see some character information here, including background, backstory, and even relationships. The Index Card tab shows you all the index cards that are attached to this character. So let's go back to our project and add some characters to our index cards. Let's go to the first sequence, Bill at School, and select the Index Card button. Then let's select the first index card, Mr. Foot. On the right-hand side of the screen, you will see a Characters tab. Click on the Add Character button. You won't see any characters created here, so let's create one. Click on the Add Character button on this screen, and let's create our first character, Bill Winter. You will see that the character will automatically be attached to the index card. Let's create one more, Mr. Foot. Now, let's add some more detailed information for these characters. Close all these windows, and then select the Characters button on the toolbar. You will see the two new characters on the left side of the screen. By selecting them, you can add detailed information for each character. You can even add an image for that character. Let's add one for Bill, our main character. Select the Picture Image box. You will be presented with a database of character images. You can choose from different packs, including Professional, Military and Heroes, Villains, and Fantasy. I'm going to select this one here since it is the same image used in the original time travel project. Now I can create the rest of the characters one by one, but I'm going to cheat and in the process show you another feature of the Characters module. By selecting the Import Characters from Another Projects option from the File pull-down menu, you can import characters from any loaded StoryO project into your current project. So I'm going to select the rest of the characters here by selecting the ones I want to import, and then click on the Import Selected button. Next, I'm going to show you how to export this information to Final Draft if you're going to write a screenplay for this project. Go to the Timeline module. Make sure that the timeline is sorted in the manner you want, because that is how the data will be exported to Final Draft. It's always a good idea to save your sort. To do this, select the Save This Ordering button. Next, from the File pull-down menu, select Export, and then Screenplay, and then Index Cards to Final Draft. You will be presented with two choices. You can export the index card text, which is what we have been entering on the index cards when we created them, or the screenplay text. This video tutorial does not cover how to create screenplay text, which allows you to create slug lines like interior and exterior, characters and dialogue and transitions, but you can check out that video, which is importing and exporting a screenplay, on our StoryO video training page on our website. So I'm going to leave this checkbox selected for index card text, and then click the Build FDX button. I'm going to save the file called timetravel.fdx on my desktop. Let's check it out. Here's the file. Let's open it. And here it is. That wraps up this introductory tutorial on StoryO. I encourage you to check out the other sample projects to see how StoryO can help you outline your project, as each sample project uses the timeline module in a unique way. And you can use the timeline in an endless amount of ways to organize your story and characters.